What is the feature definition toggle bar? The feature definition toggle bar is used to allow efficient assignment of appropriate feature definition as the design of your project proceeds. It's only used for linear feature definitions. I'll demonstrate that in a moment. In MX, the toggle bar is a little bit different, and we'll show that at the end of the AVI. So you can access the toggle bar a couple of ways. In the Tools menu, then you can access the Features toggle bar. It's also in the Task navigation. So the Features toggle bar allows us to choose an active feature. Here's all of the feature definitions that are defined in our installation. Just a note, the ones that are shown in gray, those exist in a DGN library. They still function just the same. It's just an indication that they're in the library. The ones that are in color, like this one, exist in the active DGN file. So let's create with curb. Let me just start a command, a real simple command, line between points. Every command has a setting in the dialog for the feature definition. You'll notice here it's set to no feature definition. This is actually a change in functionality from our Select Series 2 release, because in Select Series 2 you had to come here and click on Use Active Feature. We actually made that more efficient in Select Series 3, and so in the toggle bar we choose our feature, just like I did a moment ago. Choose our feature definition, pardon me. And then this is a new toggle, so I'll toggle this on. That's our override button. You'll notice when I do that, the command automatically goes to Use Active Feature. So then we'll draw our line. You notice we get the dashed black line. Now if we choose something else, edge of pavement for example, you notice the dialog still says Use Active Feature Definition. The name prefix changed because our feature definition changed. And I'll draw the line. You notice that it changed the symbology to match the feature definition. We'll use one more. So this allows us to work, if we choose to, with the dialogues hidden, and then all we need is the feature definition toggle bar. Every time that, as we're designing things, then we just use this. Of course it can be docked. Now these toggle buttons out on the end, these are advanced functionality. We'll cover these in later sessions. Now we mentioned in the introduction that these, the toggle bar only works for linear feature definitions. And it does that really to save complexity, because by just limiting this to linear feature definitions, then the toggle bar could be simpler. And you say, well, you may think, well, what about my point feature definitions? Well, in the point commands, then the override doesn't work. And so in the point commands, you do have to choose directly in the dialog the feature definition that you want. Now, to make that simpler, the dialog only lists point feature definitions. It does not list the linear feature definitions nor the surface definitions. Now, that may change in the future, but for Select Series 3, for the 2 point commands, and there's only 2, place point is this one, and equal space point you have to choose the feature definition directly in the dialog. And of course, there are surface feature definitions. They also must be chosen from the dialog, but generally for the terrain model commands there are pretty extensive interaction required with the terrain model commands anyway, and so adding the additional choice of the feature definition does not seem to be too onerous. Now we saw how the feature definition toggle bar allows us to control the feature definition of elements we created, and so we created a curb line, we created an edge of pavement line, and we created a center line, all controlled by the feature definition. Now this is the profile actually for one of our edges of pavement, and it's worth looking at the profile commands. And so let's look then. Again, we use a simple command, profile line between points. And let's look at the dialog. You'll notice that in the dialog there is no feature definition. Alright, so let's contrast that with the horizontal command. In the horizontal command we can choose the feature definition or use the override so that it uses the active. But in the profile command there is only the name prefix. There is no place to put the feature definition. Alright, and so if we think about our earlier conversations then, remember this is our feature, our edge of pavement in plan space. This is our same edge of pavement in profile space. And so the feature definition is already defined because the profile is merely a different presentation of the same feature definition. And so going back then to our command, profile line between points, we don't have to tell it a feature definition because it's already derived from the horizontal.
So let's just take a moment to have a look at the feature toggle toolbar in MX and see the differences. Well, the first difference is that the control that's on the left hand side actually is the MX model control. So this is the string container that we're used to using inside the MX environment. The second control that we have available to us is Associative Extremes. This allows us to take the geometry that we're producing and project the stroking from a reference element onto its children elements. This happens automatically in the MX environment, but because we can define everything as geometry, we may need to project the stroking from one feature onto another to preserve the point indexing that we'd normally be familiar with inside an MX environment. So looking at the feature toggle toolbar, the general usage is the same. With no model available to us, it lists all available features, including no feature definition, that are available from the DGN libraries that are attached. Just very quickly, loading the DGN libraries, we can see here that I have two PSS styles that are active in this drawing and available to me from the libraries: Combined Feature Definition and MX Road PSS. MX Road PSS doesn't look like what we would normally expect from a style set definition. If I just open the style set editor, we can see that the MX Road style set is a flat structure. What I've actually done inside of the feature definitions is utilize categories to group like features. So I've just made some groupings of carriageways, earthworks, shoulders, traffic islands, and so on, purely as a means of simplifying the listings that I use. The other feature that's available to me is the construction feature. So if I set construction feature as active, and if I create myself just a very quick complex by VPI, so as I place that, what you can see we get are different line style representations for the lines, the transitions and the arcs in the complex alignment. So it's handy as you're working in a construction mode, hence the name. But as we start to draw in a model, well, the model is associated with a particular style set, so in this instance the MX Road PSS. So what we can see from the two style sets that are attached from this library standpoint that I've loaded here, the combined feature definition, and if I now take a look, what we have is just the features that are appropriate for the model that I've got active. So that is all of the MX Road features and any microstation styles that I might also want to associate. So it automatically just filters down to the features that we have available to us. So in this instance, if I lock onto, say, carriageway edge with the feature lock enabled, and if I do a variable offset taper, just messing around here in this instance, so locate elements I want to work on, we can see that the feature definition use active feature. I can put in a name prefix here that I'm going to utilize. Locate element add. It's now after the start location. I'm going to lock it to the beginning and accept, lock it to the end and accept. So what that has placed is a style feature, carriageway edge, relative to that baseline that I've just placed in there. So we can see it's used the name definition that I supplied, so the name prefix where I just typed in plane, but it's used the feature definition carriageway edge in MX. And obviously if I created 3D elements for that, it would use the appropriate style that I've set up for carriageway edge for the 3D representation, which in this instance I've linked through to a native microstation style linear pavement outside edge.